Hi, this is Barry here, and you are very, very welcome to today's podcast episode from Rightcom.com. And today's podcast episode is entitled, If It's Hard to Do, It's Not Right for You. Now, I don't know what you're doing right now, but are you finding it hard? Are you finding it tough? Now, if maybe you are doing something you've never ever done before, you will probably have to learn some things. You'll probably have to find out how this piece of software works, or how this platform works, or how do you record this, or how do you write this way or that way or whatever. So you may be on a little bit of a learning curve that, you might have to learn some things, and that may seem a little bit tough. But I'm not talking about that kind of toughness, because we all have to kind of learn things to do things. I'm talking about the toughness in that sometimes you find that for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel right. It almost feels that you are pushing a boulder up the hill. In that, it just, some people can do some things, you may look at somebody else who maybe has a podcast, or someone else who may be a writer or has a blog, or maybe somebody who is creating digital products or whatever it is. And you're just watching them and they are just doing it all effortlessly. And then you're looking at what you are doing, and it seems to be a complete nightmare. You just, for all the effort that you're putting in, it just feels that maybe you aren't making a lot of progress. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up in a podcast episode is because I was just listening to an audiobook recently with the great Bob Proctor in it. And he was just kind of saying that if you're not in the flow of doing something, or if it just doesn't seem right, he said maybe it's time just to drop that and move on to something else. And he was just talking about a project that he was working on with somebody else. I don't know who it was, but I don't even know what the type of project was, whether it was like a training course or whether it was just some kind of seminar series or what he was doing. But he just said the two of them, even though they were working together, they were finding it really tough. And he was just saying that, he'll probably get on to that person and just say to that person, something, maybe we just need to ditch this idea that for some reason it just isn't right for us, and maybe we should just walk away. Or maybe we should try and tackle something else. And when I was just thinking about that, I was just kind of going back through the things I'd done in the past before, back many years back when I was doing fiction writing. And while it was hard at the time, when I needed to learn how to create characters, how to come up with storylines, how to plot books, and, all that was hard. But that was because I needed to learn those things, because I'd never ever written a fiction book before. But when I kind of got that kind of knowledge under my belt, I found when I was working on a book series at the time, I found it really easy. I found it really easy for me to show up every day and do my 2,000 words or however many words I was doing at the time. I found that really hard. Now, anyone on the outside would probably say, Barry, that's tough, showing up every day and writing your 2,000 words, or, you finished a book, and then you're getting into another book. It must be tough, coming up with book after book after book. And on the outside, it probably did seem tough to somebody who, might have never written a book before. But on the inside, when I learned the first kind of steps, it was really easy for me after that. I didn't find it really tough to motivate myself to show up and write my words. Now, there was some days where probably I wasn't as motivated as other days, but I found it, not impossible to show up and do the words or to finish the book, because, I was kind of in a little bit of a flow. And I found that those projects that I found easy to do, or just was, enjoyable to do, that they were the most successful for me. Again, the book series I wrote at the time, it was really, really successful. And then I found when I went into another fiction genre, when I went into writing romance fiction, while I could come up with the characters, while I could come up with the plotting and create storylines and write the books, it was almost like I was pulling teeth. It was almost that, I had to force myself to sit down. I had to force myself to get into the heads of the characters. I had to force myself to write book after book. And that's why I actually moved away from writing romance fiction, because it was harder than it should have been. And again, too, with email writing, a lot of people will probably look at, how can you write a daily email, or how can you write emails so regularly? And while there was a little bit of a learning curve at the start of that, coming up with ideas and trying to maybe, combine an idea with maybe a product that I was selling or whatever, I found it really easy. and I found it enjoyable. And some days I actually forgot that I was writing an email, and it felt more of a kind of one-on-one message where I was actually, even though, I should have had the idea in my head that, when you're writing an email, you're not writing to a mass load of people, you're actually writing to one person. And some days I found those emails that I wrote, I did really put myself into my emails. I did, probably maybe talk about things in emails I probably wouldn't have talked about in a blog post, because it just seems so natural for me. It seems so easy to write those emails. And even some of the digital products that I created in the past, some of the best products I created, and some of the easiest ones were ones that were just effortless. I came up with an idea, and then maybe in a matter of 2 or 3 days I had a series of videos created, and then when I wrote the sales letter and launched those products, they just took off. I didn't have to push it at all. I didn't have to do any promotional work. I just launched them on the Warrior Plus site, and then all of a sudden I just made sale after sale after sale. And then I found maybe I had an idea that I thought would work, and as I was kind of working on the process of recording the videos, something would happen. I might find out my microphone was broken. I'd have to go back and revisit a video and do it again, or I'd find it was difficult to write the sales letter, or I would find that it was just a lot tougher than it should have been. And that probably should have been a sign for me just to maybe ditch that project and just kind of move on to something else, because I was just kind of pushing my little rock uphill, or I was kind of, rowing against the current or whatever. And I found that when I just kind of grit my teeth and said, Barry, you've started this course, you're going to finish it, you're going to put it up there, I found that, when I did finally get it completed, do the sales letter, put the buy button on it and launch it, it just flopped. And it was because probably I was not in flow of that product, or just it wasn't right for me. I maybe when I did actually create it, I thought maybe some part of me thought maybe I was hoodwinking somebody into buying a product that, although it would work, it wasn't going to be to their to their best. I'm trying to think of the word. Their best. I think you probably know what I'm trying to talk about, but I wasn't to their best kind of, I was thinking more from my side rather than the person on the other side who was actually buying the product. So maybe we should all take Bob's advice on it. Maybe I should have took Bob's advice on a long time ago, in that, if you find something hard to do, well then maybe it's not right for you. But as I said, if you're going to do something you never ever done before, maybe recording podcast episodes, or maybe recording TikTok videos or YouTube videos, or maybe creating a digital product or something like that, if you probably find that there is a little bit of a learning curve. You're going to have to learn how to use some particular piece of software, or you're going to learn to, record on microphones, or kind of work out your sound levels, or whatever it is you need to do. There may be a little bit of a kind of learning thing that you will need to do. But when that's out of the way, if you find that it is just difficult, if you find it's just a chore, if you find that you are actually dreading the work and it's just impossible to do, well then that could be a sign maybe that project isn't going to be successful for you, that you're just not doing the thing that you should be doing, and maybe it's time for you just to ditch it, just to walk away. You probably will, it might seem that you are maybe walking away from something that, maybe you might be a little bit angry with yourself, because you're saying to yourself, well, I should have stayed with it, I should have put more effort into it, I wasn't motivated enough to do it. But maybe that's not it. Maybe it's just not right for you. And that was one of the reasons why I just deleted all my email list at the time, was because I found that the people that I was emailing, great people that they were, it just wasn't gelling. I just found sometimes I was getting a little bit angry when I was writing emails, and the last thing you want to be doing is getting angry writing emails or kind of lecturing anybody in the inbox, because they are sure as anything going to hit the subscribe button and jump off your list if that is the type of emails that they are being sent. And I just said to myself, Barry, something's not working out right here. It's maybe time for me just to call a halt and just close up the shop and walk away from it. And that is why I did, close up the email list and move away from it, because there just wasn't something right there. And part of me, as I probably said in that episode about deleting my email list, part of me probably is saying, Barry, you wimped out, you weren't motivated or whatever. I'm probably saying that I should have stuck with it longer and that it eventually would come out right, but it just doesn't seem right. So whatever project you are in right now, maybe it's just time to, or maybe just take a moment and just say to yourself, if it's tough for me, well, maybe it's just not right for me. Maybe I need to look at maybe a better solution, maybe a better way, maybe to create some training product to, overcome that problem. Or maybe it's not up to me to solve that problem. Maybe somebody else can do it a lot better than I can. Maybe my, something else is in my wheelhouse, and maybe I should look at maybe another direction to go in my business or whatever it is. Maybe it's time just to take on Bob's advice that, while everything can't be all smooth sailing, you're going to have some difficult days, but if it just seems that you are just kind of going against the current, and it's just kind of everything is just going wrong, you're kind of losing video files, your microphone's breaking, you're just maybe deleting things by accident, or just everything isn't going smoothly, that could be a sign that maybe it's time just to walk away from what you are doing right now. So as always, I hope maybe I've helped somebody out. Maybe I haven't. We'll see. But if you did find this advice useful, or if you'd like to become a subscriber of the rightcom.com podcast, you can click on, I'm sure there's probably some subscribe button close by on your device or whatever, if you want to click on that. And I will be able to send all the next podcast episodes on to you. And maybe even I might find maybe this podcast, maybe I am pushing something uphill and maybe something's not gelling. And you may find at some stage maybe I might walk away from this because maybe it's just not right for me. But we'll play along with it for how long we can get away with it, and we'll see how it goes. So as always, if you'd like to find out more about me, or if you'd like to know what I'm doing over on the Rightcom site, if you want to head over to Rightcom, that's WRITECOME.com, you'll find me and all the content over there. So as always, have a lovely day. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.